Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video in this new video series, what's new in SQL library for Allen Bradley PLCs. In this one I'm going to focus on the SQL update add instruction. We're going to talk about the differences between version L and version S, and then we're going to run into a couple examples and then discover the couple features and capabilities that has been added. So with no further delays, let's start. All right, so what I have here is, as I mentioned, the SQL update. This is the L version, so I have the L at the end. Just want to mention the difference between the version L and version S for the SQL update is that the version L can handle up to 8,000 bytes for your query, versus the S version, which it can handle up to 2,000 bytes for your query. Now, when we say that it will handle up to 8,000, you don't necessarily need to use that much, and you can certainly customize that as you wish and as your needs require. And to do so, you simply need to go to the user defined, and then under update setup, what you want to do is you want to, in the column names and the values, you want to, like right now we have column names is 800 and values 800. It's like we're going to be basically interacting with a table that has up to like 800 columns. But you can certainly reduce that to 100 or whatever the number might be that suits your needs. And then once you do that, you download back, and now you have basically reduced the amount of columns that you need, and therefore you reduce the amount of memory that your program is going to require in the PLC. So that's really one of the enhancements that has been implemented in this new generation of the library throughout all the add-on instructions that are included. Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing I want to talk about is this capacity exceeded. So this output here, or status, if, for example, you exceeded what the add instruction can do, then this will turn on and will let you know right away, okay, what you're trying to do, it's not possible with this add instruction. So if you're using, let's say, for example, the version S, then you have the ability, if depending on your circumstances and which PLC you're using, but you might have the ability to upgrade to version L and then maybe do what you're trying to do. But if you get the capacity exceeded in version L, then that would be basically the limit, assuming you have turned on and opened up all the limits. Because for you to use like up to 8,000 bytes, one thing you have to make sure of is, and I mentioned that in previous videos, but I mentioned it again, is in the login, you have to make sure that this parameter here, enable large packet, is enabled and turned on like this. If you don't have this turned on, then you will be limited, even with the L version, to up to 2,000 bytes in your query. So keep that in mind when you're playing with the L version. Now the S version unfortunately does not have that capability. It's that enabled packet will be always disabled, so you can't use that, and that's one of the differences, obviously, between S and L. The other parameter that has been added to the update is this affected rows. So right now, like from our last transaction that we have done, it shows that we have done like 66. So that's a new thing that has been added that tells you, okay, when you did that update, how many rows has been affected with your update, depending on your query, obviously that number is going to change, and we're going to see that here momentarily when we go to the demonstration. All right, so that's about the features and then the differences between S and L, and also the other feature that's also incorporated here is the SQL error message as well. So it's also part of this update, and all the other add-on instructions, they all have that capability regardless of their version, whether it's S or L. All right, so right now what I'm going to try to do is I have a table here in my database. So this table has 110 column, and it is table 2, I believe. Yeah, table 2. Okay, so I got 110 columns. So what I'm going to try to do first in here, I'm going to try to update up to 50 columns. Okay, so with that has been said, if I go here to my column number 50, okay, we got test insert. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go to my values, and I'm going to go to 49, because that's correspond to column 50. And I'm going to change this to say hello world column 50, something like that. Okay, and then I'm going to try to update this 50 column and go from there. So I'm going to try to execute here. Okay, so as soon as I did that, it did the update. You can see the counter went to 1. Now if I execute this just to refresh, we will see that in column 50, here we go, we got the update, just like that. So now what we're going to try to do moving forward now is we're going to try to find where is the limit of this. We know that we have up to 8,000 bytes for our query, but it doesn't necessarily show up in here. So one way to tell where's your limit, you're just going to basically keep pushing the limits on the columns until you find that limit, and that's going to give you an idea that you have reached that limit of 8,000 bytes. Because it depends on your data types, the amount of data you might have in your record, and all that. All that stuff play a role into that limit. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can do 110, so I can update all these records in this table. So doing so, I'm going to go to value 109, which corresponds to 110 column. And right now it says this is a stress test, so I'm just going to say hello world colon 110. Okay, and I'm going to hit apply, and I'm going to hit apply here again, say OK, and I'm going to go to the last column here, and it says here this is a stress test, and I'm going to try to execute it just by resetting this counter from here. And you can see it's almost instantaneously have done that. And if I execute, you will see that for sure we have now all these updated, and we have 66 rows in here. And if we go to our affected rows, you can see that we have 66 rows as well. So now we saw that 110 was also doable. So I'm going to keep pushing the limits until I found my boundary, basically. So doing so, I'm going to basically change to this table here. This is table 3, and it has up to 800 columns, as we can see here. 800 columns. And I'm going to be a little bit courageous this time. And instead of 110, I'm going to say, can I do like 400? Okay, so doing so, I'm going to go to value 399, and I'm going to put something in there like hello world tests colon 400. Okay, so it looks like we have something similar in there, so just changing the text a little bit. And then I'm going to go to my column 400 in here, in my table. Okay, here we go. So we got hello world column. So we're going to see if that's going to change. And I'm going to say OK. And I'm going to reset from here. Okay, so you can see now it has been executed. So this is done. Now, if I go to my table here and try to execute, to refresh, we will see column 400 right there. Here is the text that we just put in. So it's updates all the rows, and we see here it's 631 in our rows. Now if we look at the affected rows in here, we find that it is 631 as well. So it looks like I am able so far to do up to 400 columns. So let's push it a little bit further, see how far we can go. So if I go to like something like 500 and I hit apply, and then I go to my values and go to 499, because that's my 500 column right here. Looks like I have something in there, so I'm just gonna explain with this earlier. So I'm gonna add a test and apply, and then I'm gonna go here to column 500. And here it is, it still has test insert, and I'm going to try to see if I can. Okay, so as soon as I did that, it says capacity exceeded. So now we know that we cannot do 500 columns in this particular configuration. Okay, so then you can reduce your 500 to maybe 450 and so forth, or I'm just going to go to like 410. For example, and try that. So if I try to execute again, tell me you still capacity still exceeded. So it looks like we're probably that 400, it's our limits. We can maybe try for 2 and see if that's okay. So it looks like for 2 it does execute that. So we're probably like very close to the limit, so we can certainly fine-tune this. Maybe you will land at 403 or 404, but let's say to round it up, it's 400 column with this configuration that you can do. Now and that's, like I said, with version L. If we were to use version S, for example, certainly we won't be able to reach that much. We probably, with the same configuration, we will be probably looking at maybe around 100 column table as max. So that's you can see the differences in there. So again, I hope this was insightful and enjoyable, and thank you again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.